I'm from a 206 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Andrew. I'm calling from Seattle area.
Whoa.
Thanks for taking my call.
It's my pleasure. I have no... Okay, it worked. Glad to have you, Andrew. What's on your mind?
I was just curious who you guys thought might be an heir apparent. So in the case that Ailes was ousted by either 20th Century Fox or the sort of newly ascended Murdoch brothers, I was just curious about who you thought might be kind of an heir apparent to Fox News, or if there even was one at this point.
That's a really interesting...
I think it's the Sons. The Sons,
yeah,
from what I've heard.
The Sons. I mean, the Murdoch Sons are whining, but I don't know. Do they want to specifically run Fox News, or they want to run News Corp? Period, because that's a global empire that goes far beyond Fox News.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just remember hearing like a year or so back that there was a bit of a power struggle between Ailes and the Murdoch Sons. So I wonder what. I think
part of the rumor too is that Murdoch's sons and Wendy Dang, I believe, also, and this is reporting from a while ago, that it wasn't that they necessarily wanted Fox News to be like, they didn't want it to all of a sudden become like some, crusading progressive network, and they didn't want it to become, MSNBC or even necessarily CNN, but they were a little bit sort of embarrassed in like the kind of global cocktail circuit. You know what I mean? Like, wait a second, you don't believe global warming is real? Like, what's your problem with gay people sort of thing? That it's kind of like considered this kind of trashy, uncouth kind of cousin. And maybe, there's one thing if you have it as a newspaper in Britain, which, is a big deal in the UK to have some tabloid, but Fox News is sort of like this global brand that is kind of synonymous with American reactionaryism and sort of stupidity. So I think there's some concerns in the Murdoch family that just even brand-wise, they might not want to be associated with it. But yeah, a couple of years ago, the reporting was there was a little bit of a power struggle, and Ailes was, he's got the numbers behind him. But yeah, I don't really, other than, maybe the Sons, I don't really, there's certainly no one else in the organization other than the on-air talent, but there's no like, VP of whatever at Fox that I know about. Which, maybe that's what it would be.
Maintained a bit of a naive... Oh, pardon me?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I've sort of maintained a bit of a naive assumption, I guess, that if Ailes was specifically ousted, we maybe see a little bit of kind of the fever swamp of the right-wing media sort of go by the wayside. I think probably, Limbaugh is still another pillar within the movement. I guess, but I also thought that with Andrew Breitbart dying a number of years ago, that seemed to me like one of the most promising people to kind of take over that whole apparatus, especially with the continued sort of marginalization of Palin and Glenn Beck on sort of his subscriber-only media circuit. Like I said, I'm just maybe maintaining a little bit of naive optimism that if Ailes is eventually ousted, that's kind of a bit of a nail in the coffin of the overall sort of right-wing media movement.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the only thing that I would say is that I think that, the paradox is that there might be, Roger Ailes was adaptive himself in terms of like easing out Glenn Beck and stuff. So he had a sense of these dynamics, and ultimately, as I think he's a hybrid of a genuine far-right crazy, but he's also obviously very much a kind of, it's pretty clear what he is, but part of it is just a genuine sort of cynical media titan. And the problem, I think, from a market position, though, is clearly, even if the vote share of the right continues to shrink, it's the same thing like with the Republican primary. The future is in Trump and Trumpism. Like, that's the market. And one of the most interesting theories that I think we've mentioned on the show, I think Sam mentioned it, was that, what Trump is doing, and if he loses, which I think, I still think is obviously quite likely, is this is all a giant run-up to unveiling, like, the Trump network. So even with Ailes out, if you're speaking to this market, maybe like Sarah Palin or Glenn Beck are less fashionable as personalities, but, personalities can come and go. But the basic, that fusion of hysteria, xenophobia, and stupidity, that's the market formula. But I appreciate the call, man. And obviously in any scenario, having Ailes fall is great.
Hello, you. I'm Sam Seder. Looking for smart progressive talk that is occasionally amusing? Well, subscribe to our YouTube feed. Subscribe to our podcast. Like us on Facebook. And just generally enjoy us.